You talked at the beginning about growing up and going into college during the explosion of the computing era and during the explosion of the internet era. Um, it should have changed more about education than it did, because information suddenly became immediately accessible. And through that lens, in a lot of ways, I think we use the internet very badly. You have a computer in your pocket that can access every book that has ever been written, every interview with every great thinker that has ever been recorded, every study that's ever been produced, and every single piece of informational content that was designed for entertaining consumption, not just reading a dry study. And yet most people use those computers in their pocket to text their friends and scroll through videos on social media, not to learn. And I think there's the grand question of is this a software problem? Have we just not developed the correct tools? Is it a cultural problem? We just don't, value information enough? Is it just unearthing the more undesirable parts of our human nature where we don't actually care about learning nearly as much as we should? Is it just a cultural problem where it's just it's hard to move the inertia of how we have always done things and to see the new possibility, even if it's easily accessible. But we could have access to everything. Most of us forget that it's there, but very few of us are taking advantage of it. Why has education been so slow to catch up with almost every other industry that has radically transformed since getting access to the internet?
If I was an alien civilization set out to destroy the Earth, I would do whatever I could to convince the smartest graduates to go work at Instagram and Snapchat rather than at schools and medical facilities. Right? Today, the smartest kids who are coming out of computer science programs or whatever else, they go work for high-paying jobs in San Francisco at social media companies. They're not going to work at Khan Academy, Pearson. They're not going to build incredibly strong learning environments. That's one. I think the second, which is probably less weird, less philosophical, is a big system can't change without pressure, right? Large companies don't change without competitors, the same way a school district cannot change without competitors. And competitors have always been fighting on an uneven playing field because you're always competing with free. The school district is free and all competitors are not. That has always been a truism until the rise of ESAs. The ESAs changed the playing field to say, now you are not competing with free, now you are free. So now in Arizona, our KaiPod sites can be free for a family. So now I actually finally have a chance to compete on a fair playing field with them. And which means that it will create the pressure to change. And it will be painful. A lot of the school districts will fail, but it will finally create the pressure. So for me, the ESA movement is not about, great, more market for me. It's about creating competitive pressure where none has existed. And I think that is really the fundamental root cause of why education hasn't changed, but everything else has. In entertainment, right? Like cable companies dominated everything until there was competitive pressure from streaming services. And each of those streaming services competes with each other. There is no monopoly there. In healthcare, right? When there's a local monopoly of a hospital, outcomes are poor But when there is competition in a community, outcomes rise. This is a truism of economics. And I think that same principle applies in education, is there just hasn't been competition. But now there will be.